All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to World Accord's virtual conference on global solidarity. We had a wonderful session this morning. If you weren't able to make it, Vicki MacArthur and her husband Doug did a wonderful meditation that was quite cathartic, quite healing, and I just felt it was a wonderful experience to have. And if you haven't had the chance yet, it is on the World Accord Facebook page as a recorded video, and you can go and participate in that at any time. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and thank once again all of the staff and the supporters here, the volunteers for putting this weekend together, and especially for Troy Roach, who's kind of looking after all the technology for us for the weekend. So that's been very, very helpful. So this afternoon, this is a special treat for me because I get to have and introduce my daughter, Ariana. And she was on the construction expedition with me down in Honduras in March. And so she was also kind of supportive of me when we were stranded down there for a while. And so she'll be sharing a little bit about her trip to Honduras and some of the things that happened there. As we've done in the past, if you have comments, please leave them as you go in the comment field. So you can put your questions, comments, concerns, and I will try and forward them to Ariana so she can maybe answer them live. And if not, you can go ahead and leave them there anyways, and we'll make sure they get answered in the future. So that at least you'll have a chance to get your question answered, whether it's now or later. And of course, if you feel so inspired, you can also make a donation. We do have a spot in the comments section where there's a link, and you can press that link, and that'll take you to a place where you can make a donation, or you can go to worldaccord.org, and you can leave a donation there as well. So if you feel so inspired, we know things are challenging all over, and so we didn't want to do sponsorships or anything this weekend, but sometimes people would like to make a donation, so we thought we'd provide that opportunity. All right, so without further ado, I would like to pass you on to my lovely and talented daughter, Ariana. Thank you.
All right, hi. I'm Ariana, and I was on the March construction trip this year. One of the more unconventional trips because it ran a little longer than normal, but we'll get into that. I wanted to start with a video I put together just covering some of the basic questions, and then we will go from there. So let me get this rolling. All right.
Construction expeditions in Honduras. Your top questions answered. What is a construction expedition? This is a partnership project between World Accord and PRR, where a group of people will go down to Honduras for 2 weeks to build a school in a rural community. PRR stands for Program for Rural Reconstruction. They are a Honduran organization that runs all kinds of programs to help develop rural communities. Where do you stay? When you go to Honduras, you'll be staying at the La Buena Fe compound in Orconcitos, Zacapa, Santa Barbara. Your main accommodations are La Casa Transicional. This is where you will be sleeping, your showers are there, you can spend your free time there. It's your main lodging. A lot of other time is spent at Al's house. This is where all the food is prepared and where you spend all your meals. Al's house is where you eat together, spend time on his porch, there's Wi-Fi access from Al's house, and it's generally a good spot to chill after a long day's work. La Buena Fe is a separate property owned by PRR, but it's part of the community of Orconcitos, a beautiful small town with lots to offer. You can take a walk up the main hill and get a nice view of the lake. You can visit Bita, who makes hammocks. You can check out Mario's. It's a great place for snacks and refreshments. Or you can grab a beer after a long day, or pick up some Zambos, a popular snack among our particular group. Orconcitos is home to one of the only high schools in the area, and a walk up the hill will show various kindergartens and middle schools that were also projects of PRR and World Accord. What does a typical day look like? For a typical workday, breakfast is at 7, you leave by 8, at the work site at around 9 a.m., work for a couple hours, lunch around noon, work some more, you have time for a shower before dinner at 6, and then hanging out with your fellow group members, and often in bed by 10 because you are exhausted from a day of hard work. This is your routine Monday to Friday, and then the middle weekend of your trip, you get to spend in Copan, a wonderful little town where you can check out the Mayan ruins and more. What's the food like? The food is amazing. Do you like plantains, avocados, and pineapples? Well, prepare to be disappointed when you come back to Canada because you'll never get them as good here as they are in Honduras. Beans and rice and chicken are also common staples, as well as corn tortillas. Fresh, handmade corn tortillas at almost every meal. It's unbelievable. And it's all incredibly local. The food you'll be eating is not at all different from the food being eaten by any other locals in the community. What will you learn? Get ready to learn some basic construction. I had zero construction experience before this trip. Now there's a whole range of things I know how to do that I had never learned before. Things you could learn would include mixing cement, laying bricks, filling the gaps between bricks, wiring, framing windows, tying rebar, and more. You'll also learn some Spanish. No matter what your current knowledge of Spanish, you will leave with slightly more than you came with. You'll also learn a lot about the culture and lifestyle. You'll learn about the people, the ways of life, and you'll learn about yourself. New experiences are always excellent opportunities for learning. I learned so much on this trip and couldn't wait to share it with everybody when I got home. Would you do it again? This is probably the most common question I get asked, and I have to say, every time the answer is 100% yes. I have every intention to do it again. Even though my particular trip was probably one of the most unconventional trips in the history of the program, I would still do it again. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, our trip was 10 days longer than planned because our flights kept getting canceled, and we had a very hard time getting home. Though the extra 10 days were unexpected and inconvenient, we were well cared for, well fed, and in good company. So even though the trip was longer than planned, I loved every minute of it. The people are friendly and interesting, the environment is stunning, the food is excellent, and the work feels good. It's an adventure, it's humanitarian, it's cultural, it's educational, and it's incredible. It's a trip that has something for everyone. From the second I got home, I've been trying to think of ways to raise the money to go back. If this sounds like something that could be up your alley, I've got one final piece of advice. It's okay to feel wildly outside your element. It's okay to be a little nervous and wonder what you've signed up for. It's okay to be a little worried. Because if you give yourself time to settle in, you'll be amazed at how quickly you feel comfortable and happy and reassured that you've made an excellent choice. You'll be surprised at how quickly you feel at home. And I can't recommend it enough. It is truly life-changing.
That's just the little video I cut together to try to cover some of the basic facts of the trip. And I was hoping just, to get those basic questions out of the way. And then one of the things I also wanted to just go into a little more depth on before I start with the pictures is just one of the reasons this program works so well is really the partnership. It works great because it's not just a North American company coming down and saying, oh, you need a school, let's just build one and it'll be fine. Like it's not, it has to be more integrated than that. So working with PRR, they're really, like, they're a local organization in Honduras. They're in touch with the communities. They know not only which communities are in the greatest need of a school, but which communities can sustain a school. So in order to qualify for the program, the community has to lay the foundation and provide a teacher. These are really important things they need to have to make sure the community can actually support the school we build and it can be successful going forward. So highlighting the really important partnership there is one of the biggest reasons these are always successes. So going forward with that, I'm just going to go into just some more little details and stories and things from the trip with some photographs. So let me just pull those up. We have this really great Google Photos file from everyone on our trip. So these are collective photos from everyone who was on the trip. And I thought it was such a neat idea for us to all have this place to share. So I'm going to let them scroll just so you can see everything, and then I'll pull up individual ones as it's necessary. So these are mostly shots from the village of Orconcitos, where you stay, as I mentioned earlier. It's a really nicely developed little town. It's wonderful. Let's see what else we have here. There's also, like, aside from the work, there's also just little other stops and little things you do, like there's photos of caves coming up. We stopped and saw these caves in Tala Bay. They were a super cool adventure. That was really neat. I'd never seen anything like those before. Got some more pictures of Al's house. These are Al's dogs, Alfredo, the little puppy, and Oso. They're always great. This is Tala Bay, the little town we drive through most mornings on the way to the work site. And I think it's the closest local town that has, you know, a full grocery store and pharmacy, because Orconcitos is quite small. They do have some things, but you have to go into the next town over to get more of your supplies. There's lots of shots of the fields. You see a lot of banana farms, plantain farms, coffee farms. They're all in the mountains because the flat farming land is owned by the richer people. So that's why you see the poorer communities in the mountains, because it's harder to farm the land when it's literally almost vertical in places. Let's see what else. Oh, this is the saddest cat I've ever seen. This poor scraggly little thing on the work site. So we'd always take time out of our lunch and the little scraps of our food, we'd feed this poor cat, because you do see a lot of animals on the work site that are pretty skinny, pretty malnourished animals. So they're always happy to take scraps of tortillas or whatever else you can throw them. Yeah, the landscapes are just beautiful. You can see in a variety of the shots that the landscapes are just so stunning. Oh, Al's truck. I should check a little bit. Al's truck is a beast. This truck is, I believe, over 14 years old, and I think it has over 200,000 kilometers on it. And it's just, he's going up into the mountains and back down every day on roads like most of us would not dream of driving on. It's amazing, this thing. It's so much fun riding up the hills in the back of Al's truck. One of, like, you can see at the end of my video, us bouncing around in the truck, and it makes it exciting. Like, to going to work and coming from work are just so fun. It's like a little mini safari adventure almost. It's just such a cool experience. There's all of us in the truck again. I think I used that photo in the video. I can't even accurately describe it. It's just incredible. You see a lot of sustainability practices down there, even like there's this bed frame that is clearly broken. It doesn't have slats. Like, someone in Canada would probably have just tossed this out, but they've taken twine and wound the twine into a net to repurpose the bed frame instead of getting rid of it, because you work with what you have, and so they've made it work. And the twine is super, like, it holds really well. Like, this was such a good idea. Some more pictures of some of the schools. Like, when the schools are finished, it looks so much like any kindergarten you might see in North America. They turn out so well, and you can just, the kids are so happy. The kids in the neighborhoods are so happy. It's really inspiring to see. A lot of people have some misconceptions or worries that you're going to go down on one of these trips and you're just going to see sad, depressing, impoverished people struggling. And there's some truth to a lot of that. They are impoverished and there's a struggle, but a lot of them are happy. They're happy with what they have. They have good connections with their community, and it's inspiring to see how happy they are with what they have. And it's definitely a lesson that we could all live with a lot less. We stopped at a cocoa farm. So these two ladies have their own cocoa farms. That was a pretty cool experience. It's neat to see women starting businesses, because I don't think one of them's husband was killed. I'm not sure about the other one, but it's harder for women to run businesses by themselves down there if they don't have the support. So it's really neat to see them succeeding. This is another example of how it's so similar to North America. Like the base values people teach are the same no matter where you go, right? So this picture, they've got the magic words shown here. You know, perdón is kind of like, excuse me, gracias, you know, thank you, buenos dias, good day, por favor, please, permiso. Also kind of, you know, if you're, you know, cutting through people in line or something, it's, oh, permiso, like, oh, excuse me. It's all polite things, the things that are taught. Like the values are exactly the same. The teaching is so similar. Yeah, oh, here, look, more sustainable, like these are old tires they've made planters out of, just, you know, because that's what they have. They've got old tires kicking around. Let's make them pretty. Let's make crafts. I thought that was so cool. They had a bunch of them. That one's a toucan. Just such neat ideas. This is an example of how the roads can be. Oh my goodness. The one day we were driving up to the work site and it had rained the night before and we almost couldn't make it up there because it was so muddy. It was so muddy. This truck we just found abandoned. The owner of this truck got way deeply wedged in the mud and couldn't get out. So he just had to walk off for help. And we couldn't get around it because the dirt on the shoulder was going to fall apart. There wasn't quite enough space for us to get through. So it was an interesting conundrum. We ended up, Al backed the truck up enough that we found an old disused road that was flattened out. So here's Al driving around the mud on the extreme lack of road they had there. So you find your workarounds. There's always an adventure. Now I've got more photos of the work site. Lunch break. Like it's super picturesque even up where we're working, right? It's way up in the mountains. I believe the kids who would be attending this school we're currently walking over an hour to and an hour from school every day. And so in situations like that, you get some kids who aren't even going to school because they can't afford, like they can't take that amount of time out of the day. They have to be at home helping with any work available. So having a school that's much closer allows kids that aren't going to currently go because it's not taking over 2 hours every day to get there. And it's making it easier for the kids that are walking that far every single day to get to school. Like this is so much closer. It's going to help so much. There's actually, I'm sure it's shown in one of the things, there's a little house right beside where we were working. And so the kids going to that school from that house that's right beside, it's going to be so different not walking that far. It's going to be great for them. Oh, that's XIL. The woman who does most of the cooking, Cindy, she lives with Al. And that's her little son. He is the cutest. We've got a bunch of photos of people playing with him.
Just a quick comment, Ariana, that house that's right beside where the school is, those are some pretty poor people, but they're going to have an excellent opportunity to open up a small shop. There'll be a little tienda that they'll be able to run right next to the school. Parents dropping people off, being able to pick something up. It'll be a nice little business opportunity. Thanks, carry on.
Yeah, it's amazing how the things ripple out, right? Like the school is going to be great for the kids, obviously. And then from there out, like the house next to it can open a store and the effects just kind of like wave out from the center. The positivity just flows. It's wonderful. Little, like the farmers in the area might be able to sell their stuff to the little shop. It could be, there's limitless potential in situations like this. You can kind of see from these pictures, but this house was also interesting because it's right on a hill. The foundation of the school is like, on one side is flat to the road and the back side of the school, you can't see the foundation is like super deep because it's literally on a hill. You can kind of see in the background of these photos, like the road is way lower. The work can seem intimidating when you're first signing up for this trip. You may have never done any construction like me. I had barely done any manual labor in my whole life. And so it does definitely seem intimidating, but it's not bad. Like, first of all, they never ask you to do anything you're not comfortable with. There's a variety of tasks. You can pick and choose which ones you want to help with, which ones you feel like you're better suited for. So if you're a person who just doesn't have the arm strength to do heavy lifting, you just do as much as you can and don't push yourself. There's always going to be somebody else who can help fill in or someone who can help you learn the things you don't know. The work shouldn't intimidate you. It really is not as bad as you think it's going to be. Oh, here's a little picture of another one of the houses in the community. Some of the examples of this community is definitely one of the less developed ones, but having the school in the area should definitely help with that. Well, there's the one with the doors or windows are all framed up, ready to go. That was one of the things I learned how to do, getting all the doors and windows set up. There's Al. Oh, it's important to talk about Al. I mentioned him a little bit in the video and I couldn't go into enough detail. Al is 90 years old. Al celebrated his 90th birthday recently and he is up building on every single trip. Al is a freaking hero. He is the most impressive human being I know personally. Like, he puts us all to shame on the work site, by the way. Like, we're all, you know, young, able-bodied and doing our best, and Al, 90 years old, is just building away, like, way faster and way harder than anybody else. It's incredible to watch. He's a truly inspirational human. If anyone gets a chance to meet Al, I recommend it. I believe he's still in Honduras as of now, just because where he's staying was so much more remote and quite possibly safer than being back in North America. He chose to stay there a little longer when we all got our flights back. Hopefully as things open up, he'll be able to come home soon, because we all miss him. But yes, I highly recommend everyone get a chance to talk to Al because he is inspirational. Look, there he is way up on the scaffolding. He's just taking a break after laying bricks. There's the actual little house that it was beside the work site. So this is the big pile of sand they dumped there so we could sift the sand to mix the cement. The work is all super organic. You'd think there'd be a bunch of ready-made construction materials, but like you're making the materials that you use to make the school. It's very much from scratch, which is super cool learning. When the shot of us bending the rebar, it's not like we had those clips ready to go. We bent those clips. You cut rebar to bend the clips, and then you tie the clips with pieces of steel that you also cut. Like, the learning is incredible. It's different than you think it's going to be. That's the little parrot that lives with the family there. His name is Pancha. The kids are great too, right? Even like if you have locals from the community, adults coming to help out, but you occasionally get kids. They're just like, they just jump in, grab a cement bucket. This kid just picked up a shovel and started helping. We're like, oh, you're so young. You should be off learning. But no, they want to help. They want the school as badly as we want to build it, right? It's incredible to see everyone working together so hard and pitching in to build this school. There's more pictures of the little cat. She's all tired out after being fed by us. Oh, here's a bunch of pictures of the kids. So one of the unique things about our trip is, due to COVID-19, the Honduran government shut down all the schools at a certain point. And so there was just way more kids running around the construction site, which, you know, it's great to see them, but you worry for them because it's a construction site. It is not the safest place for children. And eventually at a certain point, the work will bottleneck a little bit. Because there's certain tasks that are more specialized that only experienced people will do, like welding. I'm not about to weld. They would be irresponsible to give me a welding torch. So there's certain tasks that we have the more professional people do, and there's a little bit less for some people to do. So one of the default tasks in this case became entertaining the kids to keep them from being underfoot. Megan, you can see in the orange hat here, has been on so many trips. She has really excellent Spanish, and she's really great with these kids. So it's the fun game of drawing things and then saying what they are in English versus Spanish. Like, I'll draw a star and I'll tell her it's a star. And she taught me Estrella. I believe it's Estrella is the star. And so you can learn little bits from the kids because they're happy to try to teach you.
I'm just going to chip in here a tiny bit too, again, Ariana.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes people feel a little bit guilty that they're not working, that they're playing with the children. And I've heard this before from people. It's kind of like, well, I'm playing with the children. But then someone else pointed out, and it was very, very clear. It's kind of like, these children are the reason that we're here, right?
Absolutely.
It's the reason that we come to Honduras, the reason we raise the money, and the reason we build a school. So it's a wonderful thing to do, I think.
For sure. And kids are they're just interesting, right? Kids seem to love to teach as much as they like to be taught, right? So they have a great time trying to point out things and tell us what they are and trying to help us learn some Spanish. Like, it's a really, really cool pairing of us trying to learn and then wanting to teach us. It's quite neat. And there was so many more of them around this time because schools were out. You do see, even when schools aren't out, you do see some in the afternoon, because I believe a lot of the times they'll only have one school building and a lot of kids to teach. So the more primary students are taught in the first half of the day, and then that school is let out and the older students come for the second half of the day. So even if, you know, school's in normal session when you're on a trip, you're still going to see these kids after, I believe, about 2 o'clock. The primary schools will let out, and then you'll see all the kids come running out after the hour it takes for them to walk home. So here's all, you can see the wide variety of drawings. They put the little rocks on them so they wouldn't blow away in the wind, but these are all the different drawings the kids did. Some pictures of some of the ones that, I think some of these ones might have been ones that our group did, but. Oh yeah, you can see the schools coming along. The roof is built up to it's coming to that point. So at this point, we're almost, we got to match the other side, but we're almost ready to start putting on the roof. There's more photos in the truck. The truck is just so fun. It's one of the smallest parts of the trip that's some of the most fun. It's very cool. And you get amazing, amazing views all the way up and down the mountain every single day. Yes, more having fun in the truck. Oh yes, going to Copan. Going to Copan is a really neat experience. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff there. Like, you find art in some of the most mundane places you wouldn't think. It's colorful, it's beautiful. This is the Canadian bar, in quotes. The guy who runs it, Juan, I believe, is from Montreal or spent a lot of time in Montreal, but either way, he loves Canadians. He's always happy to see people. And this is one of the few things that's decorated like a North American style pub almost. It looks really out of place there. You've got the waitress that will bring you a beer on her head. She came all the way up the stairs like this, believe it or not. It's one of the things this bar does. It's so fascinating. Copan was really beautiful. Like, I would go back in a heartbeat. We've got it mixed in with Megan went to see Freddie's farm, I believe, while we were in Copan. So she's got a bunch of photos from this farm experience she had. They're super cool. Oh, the one restaurant we go to, the guy rescues dogs. And so one of the days we were there, there's just these clean dogs just occasionally running through the restaurant because it was bath day. His girlfriend insists that the dogs get washed once a week if they're going to be anywhere near the restaurant, just for sanitary reasons. So there was all these dogs running around. It was awesome. I think one of these pictures is the one that might have made the news, because we had the Boy Scouts with us that were stranded on the trip. And so I think they made the news a couple times when they couldn't make it home. The Mayan ruins are amazing. They're so fascinating. The culture survived for so many years. It's just, there's almost too much to learn in one trip. Like, I would go back and probably learn entirely new stuff the second time. These wood burning stoves are really awesome. I believe they're called the Lorena stones. You see them in a lot of the houses. They work super well. They're super sustainable. And like, they're set up so that all the wood smoke would be piped outside. They're very cool. Oh, we're starting to get the roof beams on here. So this is the part that's a little more, it requires a more skilled person to do this. They're welding the pieces together up top here, right? And so a lot of us are just playing with the kids and waiting around because we're kind of at a little bit of a standstill while the welding is being done. The roof from the inside. All the beams are being welded together. Well, we helped one of the days when we were looking for things to do. We helped with the corn. All the corn is dried out, and so we're shucking all the kernels off the corn cobs so they can take them down to the mill and have them ground, and then they make the corn flour, which is where all the corn tortillas come from, right? So it's that really local presence, like that super local foundation that we need to have more of here. It's like, this is literally the corn that is going to be in our tortillas later, and we are taking it off the husks. This is corn that was grown like relatively nearby. I'm not sure which field it came from, but I know it was from nearby because that's just how it's done. And another here, like, there's a little video playing right here of they've got a bike and they're spinning two things of thread together to make the string for the hammocks that Vita makes. We've got a little video of her weaving. Well, that's not her. That's one of her family members. And so she makes hammock chairs and hammocks. There's Megan in one of the hammock chairs. They're very cool. We put in a lot of orders as a group, so I'm sure she had to get a bunch of her family together to help get all of our stuff fulfilled before we went home. And interacting with the people is some of the coolest part. People don't mention or people forget, but like we went on a hike with Kayla's family. Kayla's just one of the people who lives in the village that she's very friendly. So a lot of us have talked to her. She's trying to learn English. So we try to talk to her in our Spanish so we can learn, and she tries to talk to us in her English so she can learn. It's a conflux of learning. It's very cool. And so her family took us on a hike around their farmlands, just one of the afternoons where we didn't have anything to do. Unfortunately, at a certain point, the Honduran government shut down the roads to stop spreading the virus, so we weren't allowed up to the build site anymore. So that was a hard hit because we all wanted to go keep building, but we found things to do, right? We found things to do and continue our cultural education. And so going on hikes with Kayla's family was very cool. There's still a lot to do in Orconcitos, even if you can't go up and build. I love this donkey with all the sticks. It's just the things you see that you wouldn't see every day here, you know, the experiences, even if you don't have a lot of context. We just drove past this. He's taken all of his possibly firewood, possibly not, back to his house. Almost everybody has dogs. If you like dogs, this is a good place to check out. They're relatively friendly, but you know, you don't necessarily go up and just pet them because some of them haven't been treated the best, so they may be a little bitey, but none of them are dangerous. So they're not going to come up and attack you or anything. But there are tons of dogs around that are always happy to take scraps. This is one of our hikes up the big mountain right at Orconcitos. There's that huge mountain, and we were hiking up it one of the days. Oh, this is the coffee plant. I talked a little bit about the coffee plants. So when you're hiking through the mountains and it's just coffee plants on either side of your little trail, you can smell the coffee in the air, and it's wonderful. It doesn't smell like actual coffee. It's very floral when they're flowers, but it was such a cool experience to be walking up the mountain and just smelling this. The whole air smells like flowers. It's beautiful. Yeah, so all these steep hills could be covered in coffee. I'm so impressed at people who manage to farm on these super vertical landscapes. Oh, I think that's about our time. I'm actually a little over time, my goodness. All right, well, there's much more I could go on about, but I'll let us go. I wasn't paying close enough attention, so.
Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? If you want to ask a question, there's mostly just been comments so far in the comment section, and they're all wonderful, but I haven't seen any questions there at this stage.
Or if anyone has questions later, I'm always around. Feel free to message me.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we get these questions answered either now or at some other point. So they'll be staying there, and these videos will be up for people to view into the future. So that'll be very handy. So you would go back 100%?
Oh yeah, I fully intend to go back.
Right, so we don't know about next year right now because everything's really up in the air. I know that Richard Kirsch is our primary organizer up here in Canada, and he has put out an email to people who've been on trips before, so who would be already aware of the situation down there. And he has, they have tentatively set up some people to go down if it's a possibility that they could kind of like go last minute, because it's really hard to plan for. And if you're one of the people who would really feel okay of kind of like getting a last minute notice and jumping on a trip and going to Honduras, be sure and get a hold of myself or get a hold of Richard Kirsch, and you can find the information, of course, on that at worldaccord.org. And we have information there in the construction sites. And there's also another entire construction webpage that Megan Gilbertson set up for us. She's the one who did the tiny house discussion yesterday. So anything else you want to share before we call it a day, Ariana?
I went through a bunch of it. There's always more if anyone's curious. I have endless stories, but Yeah, it was great. I highly recommend it. I hope multiple trips can run next year. I think they're trying for at least one. So fingers crossed.
I know you didn't talk about getting stranded down there.
You know what? Because it wasn't as big of a deal as like it wasn't as it didn't really affect me that much. I mean, it wasn't that scary because I knew we were in good hands. Like we'll get home eventually. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that the biggest challenge was the fact that they kept canceling flights on us, and that we just didn't know, right? You just don't know when you're going to get to go home. So that part was a bit of a challenge, but we had 9 people on that trip, and in the end, we were only about 10 days late, I guess, getting back to Canada. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like that big a deal. It's just that we had a couple of weeks of that was not building. You know, we kind of had to try and keep ourselves busy around the compound because everything was locked down. So, like I say, hopefully next year we'll be able to get back. Al Wygood is staying down there. He's just keeping busy. I told Al, I says that would be the biggest thing in the world. That would be a horrible miscarriage of justice if he managed to die of boredom. because he likes to keep busy. So he's shucking corn down there with a partner, and we don't know when he's coming home. He has no plan yet. He's still thinking that it might be June or July if he makes it home this summer. It's possible he might not make it home this summer. He might not even try. So we'll just have to see. He does have a residence down there, and he is a Honduran resident, so he's free to stay as long as he likes. It's just that we miss him up here in Canada. So we have another session coming up at 4:30 this afternoon. I think Becky's going to be working with some of youth that are kind of doing Minecraft, and I think they're going to do kind of like sustainable home design within the Minecraft platform. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much, Ariana and Troy, again, for looking after the tech for us. Hope you all have a great afternoon, and we'll see you at 4:30. Thanks. Bye-bye.